0317 local time, Strait of Hormuz. The radar picture looks clean. Inside the Combat Information Center of USS Gravely, a guided missile destroyer running patrol along the western approach to the strait, the screens show exactly what they're supposed to show. Merchant vessels, tanker traffic, a container ship making slow transit toward the Indian Ocean. Another inbound from Singapore, low in the water, riding heavy with crude. The watch rotates on schedule. Coffee sits cooling on the edge of a console. Outside, the Gulf is black and still. East Petty Officer First Class Daniel Reyes adjusts his headset and runs a standard sweep across the surface picture. 12 years in surface warfare, he knows the radar signature of every vessel type that transits this water. Tankers, dhows, patrol boats. He knows what normal looks like. He also knows what it doesn't. At 0319, the first anomaly appears, a faint cluster of returns, low and fast, emerging from a stretch of coastline 41 miles northeast. Reyes narrows the filter. The returns sharpen. Not one contact. Not two. He counts. Then he counts again. He reaches for the communication line. Bridge CIC. Multiple surface contacts bearing 037. Range 41 miles. Recommends supervisory review. No alarm in his voice. Just the flat, steady cadence of a man who has already made his decision about what he is looking at. 0321. The CIC supervisor, Lieutenant Commander Marcus Webb, steps to the radar console and studies the picture. The cluster of returns has tightened. The contacts are moving in formation, bearing south-southwest, toward the strait. He begins counting. 47 individual signatures, each one small, each one fast, each one accelerating. Webb doesn't speak immediately. He runs the speed calculation first. The contacts are pushing 28 knots. At that speed, from that distance, they will reach the narrowest point of the strait in less than 90 minutes. The Strait of Hormuz is 21 miles wide at its choke point, 21 miles of water that carries roughly 20% of the world's traded oil through it every day. Tankers queued in both directions, moving through designated traffic lanes. Unable to maneuver quickly, unable to accelerate, unable to fight back. 47 contacts, 28 knots. Webb picks up the line to the commanding officer. Captain, CIC, you need to see the surface picture. 0324. 41 miles away, the contacts resolve into something more specific. The radar return from an explosive drone boat is distinctive once you know what to look for. The signature is narrow, low in the water, almost invisible from a distance. Most are fiberglass or composite hulled, roughly the length of a pickup truck, carrying a payload designed not to be recovered. The warhead typically sits forward, behind a bow-mounted impact fuse. Some variants are remotely piloted, some run on pre-programmed GPS tracks. Some newer versions use visual guidance, a small camera in the bow sending live feed back to a shore-based operator who steers the weapon toward its target like a video game. Iran has been developing this capability for years. The logic is not complicated. You do not need to sink a warship to close the strait. You need to create enough uncertainty that the insurance market pulls coverage from commercial vessels. Tanker owners pay Lloyd's of London to assume the risk of transit. Lloyd's raises rates when ships start burning. At a high enough premium, the economics of transit collapse. The oil stops moving without a single missile touching a naval vessel. The Houthis proved the concept in the Red Sea. One successful strike on a commercial vessel does not close a waterway, but a sustained campaign, week after week, to vessel after vessel, eventually makes the actuarial math work against transit. Iran watched that campaign closely. They drew their own conclusions about what a larger, faster, more coordinated version of that pressure could accomplish in a waterway one-third the width of the Red Sea's southern approach. Iran calls their primary variant the Tufan. The name means hurricane. The hull is fast enough to outrun a merchant vessel. The warhead is large enough to rupture a tanker's cargo hold. And 47 of them, launched simultaneously in a coordinated swarm, are designed to overwhelm any single ship's ability to respond. Not because each one is unstoppable, because 47 of them, all at once, are a math problem. 0327. USS Gravely is not alone. Within 4 minutes of Webb's initial report, the contact picture has spread across the entire strike group network. 2 additional destroyers, 1 cruiser, and a coastal patrol squadron 15 miles south receive the same radar feed simultaneously. On the bridge of USS Monterey, the tactical action officer studies the formation geometry as the contacts push south. They are spreading slightly as they accelerate, the outer edges of the swarm fanning outward. That matters. A single-axis swarm is manageable. You engage from the front, work through the formation, track and destroy each contact sequentially. A spreading swarm is different. A spreading swarm is designed to force the defensive network to look in multiple directions at the same time. The outer contacts curve toward the tanker lanes on the eastern approach. The center mass drives straight for the choke point. The geometry distributes the threat across a wider engagement arc than any single ship can cover alone. Inside Monterey's CIC, the tactical officer marks the threat axis. Coordinated approach vector. Recommend immediate multi-ship engagement posture. The response comes back in seconds. Concur. Execute. 0331. The first defensive layer activates before a single round is fired. Maritime patrol aircraft already airborne over the Gulf begin repositioning. Two MH-60R Seahawk helicopters lift off destroyer flight decks and push northwest at full power, their rotors hammering the dark air. These aircraft are anti-submarine platforms by primary design, but they carry a secondary surface warfare loadout. Hellfire missiles, precision-guided, laser-designated, capable of engaging small, fast-moving surface targets at ranges the naked eye cannot reach. The AGM-114 Hellfire was built to kill tanks. It adapted. At 4,200 feet above a threat environment, a trained sensor operator can hold a laser spot on a target roughly the size of a kitchen table, moving at 28 knots, in darkness, from more than 4 miles away. The missile reads the laser energy reflecting off that target and follows it to detonation. The warhead carries enough shaped charge to tear through vehicle armor. Against a fiberglass drone boat, there is nothing left. At 4,200 feet above the Gulf, the lead Seahawk crew picks up the swarm on their forward-looking infrared sensor. The contacts appear as 47 identical heat signatures moving in a loose wedge across black water. The sensor operator begins classifying from front to back. Speed, heading, hull shape. The contacts match known Iranian USV profiles with high confidence. The pilot thumbs his weapon selector. Hellfire, hot. 0334. Do the math. 47 contacts at 28 knots. The engagement window opens at roughly 15 miles. The outer edge of effective weapons range for the helicopters. That gives the defensive network approximately 32 minutes to neutralize every contact before the swarm enters the commercial traffic lanes. 32 minutes, 47 targets. That is one engagement every 41 seconds, sustained across multiple weapon systems simultaneously. Not queued. Simultaneous. Because the swarm is not moving in a single file line. It is spreading. Nigs and the contacts on the outer edges are curving toward gaps in coverage. The strike group begins working through those numbers. The first Hellfire leaves the lead Seahawk at 0334. The missile crosses the distance in under 4 seconds. The lead drone boat disappears in a flash of white on the infrared screen. No secondary explosion. Clean kill. The operator marks the contact destroyed, designates the next. Range, lock, fire, 46, 0337. On the surface, the destroyers open up. USS Gravely engages with her Mark 38 machine gun system, a 25mm chain gun mounted forward, radar-slaved, capable of cycling through high explosive rounds at 200 per minute. The gun tracks automatically. The operator designates. The system fires. At close range against a fiberglass-hulled drone boat riding low in the water. The effect is immediate. The forward edge of the swarm begins to come apart. But the swarm does not slow. The contacts in the center continue pushing south. 3 of them adjust heading slightly, tracking away from the destroyer's position and curving toward a gap between the patrol zones. A narrow corridor of open water where no ship currently sits. Inside Gravely's CIC, Reyes watches the adjustments on his radar screen. 3 contacts. Different heading from the main body. Not random drift, he marks them immediately. Bridge, CIC, contacts Tango. 19 through Tango, 21 braking formation. Bearing 192. Possible gap exploitation. Webb doesn't pause. Relay to Monterey. Task, Seahawk 2, 0341. The 3 breakaway contacts push into the gap at full speed. Beyond them, 3 miles south, a tanker is moving through the inbound traffic lane, 330 meters long, fully laden, VLCC class. Its bridge team does not yet know the contacts exist. The second Seahawk crew receives the tasking and brakes hard left. Their infrared picture fills with the 3 fast-moving signatures. The sensor operator locks the nearest contact. Laser on. Clear to engage. 2 hellfires, 2 kills. The third contact continues south. The pilot drops altitude aggressively, bleeding speed, trying to shorten the firing solution. The final contact is now 900 meters from the tanker's beam. The sensor operator keeps the laser steady on the hull. Fire. The Hellfire drops from its rail and covers the distance in 2.3 seconds. The drone boat detonates 400 meters short of the tanker's hull. On the tanker's bridge, the explosion appears as a white flash on the water. Distant, unexplained. The crew will not understand what just happened until hours later. 0347. Inside the swarm's main body, 29 contacts remain. They are now 17 miles from the chokepoint. The destroyers are killing one every 30 to 40 seconds. The Seahawks are ranging ahead of the surface ships, picking off the faster contacts and the breakaway attempts. A coastal patrol craft sprints south to cover the eastern traffic lane, its crew running their own chain gun against the swarm's right flank. But 17 miles is still 17 miles, and some of the contacts are pushing faster now. The outer edge units have accelerated past 30 knots. Whether that is a pre-programmed terminal sprint or a human operator responding in real time to the attrition on his screen is unknown inside the CIC. What is known is that faster contacts close the engagement timeline. Tango 31, Tango 32, Tango 33, all bearing 201. Reyes calls the tracks without pause, his voice flat, mechanical, steady. He has been on this console for 26 minutes. He will be on it for however long this takes. 0354. The last 11 contacts enter the close defense envelope. At 4 miles, the CIWS systems aboard, Gravely and Monterey, come online. The Phalanx close-in weapon system is a 20mm rotary cannon that fires 4,500 rounds per minute and uses its own onboard radar to track and engage fast-moving surface and air targets autonomously. It does not require a human trigger. The system detects, classifies, and fires entirely on its own once enabled. Here is what 4,500 rounds per minute actually means in practice. It means the Phalanx puts 75 rounds downrange every second. It means that in the time it takes a drone boat to cover the final 200 meters of its attack run at 30 knots, roughly 13 seconds, the system has already fired nearly 1,000 rounds along that track. The cannon does not aim for the boat. It aims for the point in space where the boat will be when the rounds arrive, calculated and recalculated hundreds of times per second as the target moves. Against a fiberglass hull with no armor and no countermeasures, the result is not a question of accuracy. It is a question of whether the debris field stops before it reaches the ship's hull. It does. The engagement runs 9 minutes. At 0403, the radar picture clears. Reyes runs a sweep across the surface. He runs it again. No fast-moving contacts, no anomalous returns. Only the tanker traffic moving steadily south and the destroyer sitting quiet in the dark water of the Gulf. He leans back slightly and speaks into the open circuit. CIC, surface picture clear. All hostile contacts destroyed. No celebration, no raised voices, just the flat professional acknowledgement of a fact. 0411 inside. Gravely's CIC, Lieutenant Commander Webb, enters the final line into the tactical log. 47 hostile surface contacts engaged. 0 contacts reached commercial traffic lanes. No strike group assets damaged. No civilian vessels struck. Outside, the Strait of Hormuz is open. The tanker that had been 400 meters from a detonation is still moving south, hull intact, cargo intact, crew unaware of how close the margin had been. 47 weapons. 47 engagements. One defensive network working in layers, working in the dark, working at a pace of 1 kill every 41 seconds for the better part of 50 minutes. That number, 41 seconds per kill, is not a comfortable margin. It is the exact margin. The swarm was designed to saturate the timeline. It came close enough that 3 contacts broke the outer screen entirely and reached a civilian vessel's engagement range before being stopped. This is the part that does not make the official statement. 3 got through the first layer. 3 had to be stopped by a second layer. and one of those three was stopped 400 meters from a laden tanker in a shipping lane. A tanker carrying somewhere between 1 and 2 million barrels of crude. A tanker whose loss, followed by 1 or 2 more in the same week, would be enough to move the insurance market in ways no naval press release can undo. From a distance, the Gulf looks exactly as it did at 0317. Black water, scattered lights, tankers making slow transit. Nothing in the morning stillness reveals what just happened here. But inside the strike group's network, every sensor log, every radar track, every engagement sequence has already been transmitted up the chain. Analysts will spend days pulling it apart. What they will find is a blueprint, not a failure. A blueprint. Iran now knows which gaps in the patrol pattern the swarm can exploit. Yes, they know the response time from helicopter tasking to weapons release. They know how fast the outer contacts need to run to force a second engagement layer into action. They know the geometry of a breakaway that nearly worked. 47 boats did not close the strait, but 47 boats taught Iran exactly how close they need to get, and exactly which layer of the defense is the thinnest. And somewhere, an Iranian planner is looking at 47 disappearing radar returns and running the same math. What does 60 look like? 70? What does the timeline look like if the terminal sprint starts at 20 miles instead of 10? 3 questions the engagement log does not answer. If the swarm had been 60 contacts instead of 47, does the defensive timeline hold, or does something get through? One tanker was 400 meters from a detonation. What happens the next time the breakaway group is 4 boats instead of 3, and the second Seahawk is already committed elsewhere? And the most uncomfortable one, the Strait of Hormuz is 21 miles wide, but the commercial traffic lanes are 8. How many drone boats does it take to make an insurance underwriter decide that 8 miles is no longer worth the premium? The oil is still moving. The strait is still open. For now. That's the kind of tactical breakdown we do here every week. Subscribe to Navy with Kevin and you'll never look at a shipping lane the same way again.